welcome Max Lamothe-Brassard from LimaCharlie. How's it going, Max?
Very good, very good. How about yourself?
Yeah, good. Running around in the craziness of RSA. But when did you land?
Yesterday at 3. Yeah. It's RSA is this craziness, but it's not every week that all the industry can be in the same place at the same time. So
exactly. It's funny because I get a lot of East Coast guys moaning about jet lag, and it's not on the same level as
hold my beer,
as us. Exactly. But no, really excited to dig into your story because what you're doing with LimaCharlie, but especially like the early time in your career is pretty cool. So for anyone that doesn't know who you are, why don't you give a kind of really high level overview of LimaCharlie, and then we'll get into the weeds of your interesting early career.
Yeah, sure thing. So LimaCharlie is a fundamentally different product or vendor than what you've seen before, right? That's always like the beginning, and we really mean it. So LimaCharlie is a SecOps cloud platform.
Mm-hmm.
The easy kind of way to understand it, it's a very different spin, is we're building a cloud provider for cybersecurity primitives. So it sounds super cliche, and I know, the AWS of cybersecurity, but we're really following kind of that plan, right? So it means that as a cloud provider like vendor, everything that we do is self-serve, multi-tenant, build per usage, scale up, API first, OEM, frankly. So it's like working with a cloud provider.
Mm-hmm.
The difference is we don't make virtual machines and queuing systems like in AWS.
Mm-hmm.
We make capabilities for cybersecurity. And doing that as a cloud provider means that they're unopinionated capabilities. So like EDR was our EC2 when we started there. And EDR as a primitive means that it's not the thing that you deployed that just goes like, hey, this is the bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
It's the pro tool that cybersecurity professionals that are building services, products, enterprise use to go and build cool stuff for the industry.
Mm-hmm. And we've had obviously the pleasure of working with you guys, and Jessica's been on our virtual pod as well. How does it go down? Is it kind of when you're pitching and prospecting with new enterprise customers, do they get it instantly, or is there a bit of education around getting them to realize what your idea actually is? A quick one here from Oliver, one of the co-founders of Asperon Search. Our CyberBytes podcast showcases the security ecosystem's most exciting companies, but we do much more. Our talent solutions give security vendors the competitive advantage by building high-performing go-to-market and technical teams globally. If you're looking for your next role or need to hire the best talent in this competitive market, then reach out to us directly via our info@email in the show notes. Let's get back to it.
Yeah, so it's not intuitive, it's not instantaneous, right? If it was, everybody else would be doing it, right? That's how I look at it, right?
True.
That being said, it's been an evolution. That's been pretty interesting, seeing from the very beginning of LimaCharlie, where we would talk about this vision and then we'd get blank stares from people. Like people just didn't. It was just so far, right? You were in a world where you had the checklist of like 150 different acronyms that you have to buy for your company, and a service agreement for every one of them. And now you're telling me like it's a cloud provider. What are you talking about? But over the years, like every time it gets easier and easier. We're kind of now, I would say, down to if I think about it like percentages, like 99% of people within 5 minutes kind of go like, oh, okay, I get it. And then we get some people like 30 seconds and they're like, oh shit, that's amazing. Like, that's what I do.
It's the problems that come with being a true innovator in the space, Max.
That's right.
The domain and category creator.
Yeah.
And so, like, rewinding for you personally, and I know some of the kind of government stuff, you're going to have to be pretty kind of careful about what you say, but kind of give me an insight into your early career and how it led to where you are now, and what kind of 6.5 years in with LimaCharlie.
Yeah. So I'm Canadian, right? The background here. And I studied at the University of Victoria on the West Coast. Originally, I'm from Quebec City, so that's the accent. It's the French in me.
That was why I struggled with your double-barreled French surname.
Yeah, oh yeah. It sneaks up on you. So I studied there, and then it was a co-op program, which means you got to do internships. I think I had something like 5 or 6 internships, or like a good number. And I think it's at number 2 that I did it for an organization in Canada called the Communications Security Establishment. And that is CSE, and it's the thing that 99% of people don't know anything about, but it's the NSA. So it's the equivalent of the NSA in Canada or GCHQ in the UK.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did my first of many of the rest of my work terms there. And it was a really kind of eye-opening. At first, I wasn't in security. So I was in a different group doing kind of software development, like Java stuff. But you know, you can imagine you're in university, you get a job at the NSA, and then you show up, and what you do has nothing to do with anything you think about the NSA. So pretty quickly, I was like, I really want to go on the SIGINT side, so the signals intelligence side, and so I managed to get some work terms there. And that was kind of the spark that for me really started everything, because it was sort of a field that truly allowed you to kind of break down any kind of envelope or barriers around, you know, what you think you know or you're doing or you can do. And it was just, you know, just try to do like cool, amazing things. So it was just hit the right here for my personality there.
Yeah, I only wish you were able to say some of the deeper details of that. And then I guess moving on to like your then commercial vendor focus background. So you were around employee 100 for CrowdStrike?
That's right. So pre-product CrowdStrike, very different place. And I went from government to CrowdStrike. So it was a, you know, I got, I kind of joke, like I got private sector whiplash. Like it was just very different experience, and super interesting. Obviously, you know, kind of found myself in a place that in hindsight, right, you look back like, wow, I was really lucky to be in that spot. But I architected a lot of the early security operations center for CrowdStrike, like around services, which gave pre-product. Did a few things for their threat intel team. So it was sort of I would say the starting point of building more serious infrastructure, not like systems, right? I'd gone from a background of building agent software, and so going into like larger scale systems, which was not my training at all. So it was, you know, looking back, you know, it was I didn't do the greatest, but that's kind of how it started, and that's how you learn. Yeah.
And then when did the founding idea come for LimaCharlie? Was it a eureka moment, or was it the kind of foundations and slow building of an idea over time?
Well, I would kind of decouple it a little bit into 2. So one is the idea of starting something. So starting a company for a long time, I kind of always had that feeling like the end of the road, but you know, the road leads to starting a company. And looking back at my career, I've kind of always been an N+1 kind of doing things that were a little bit bigger than where what I could build where I really was. So that was always obvious. And so the progression really came when I left Chronicle. So yeah, I did like Google internal security and then part of the Chronicle founding team. And when that happened, I kind of knew like there's nowhere else to go. What else am I going to do? This has to be, you know, has to start a company. The other part of it, obviously, which is the thesis behind it. I wish I could say it was like, one singular aha moment, but truthfully it wasn't, right? I think it's a few different things, but one of them is an accumulation of experience in many different parts of the industry. And being very lucky to be in pretty advanced or mature cybersecurity teams, which gave me kind of a different bias, I think, in general. And over time, seeing the trend of how the industry had adapted to many things, right? I always think in terms of back when I joined CrowdStrike, this was in the middle of the whole APT craze, right? Like everybody was trying to defend against APTs and like doing this like amazing, super badass stuff. And then the industry kind of realized like, yeah, not that many people get attacked by APTs. People don't know really what it is. You have to go down market to be able to address like bigger markets. And I had observed that. And I think because I was also part of those mature teams, I kind of saw the negative aspect of that, which was if you were a cybersecurity team and you knew what you were doing and you were trying to do a job that you knew how to do it, the vendor space was putting itself between you and the capability. And so it's really that kind of crystallized at the same time when I decided to start LimaCharlie. I decided, on the first, like from the beginning, the criteria was, I don't want to go and do, the same thing that's been done 100 times. Mm-hmm. I want to take a big swing, try to do something that has the potential to really change things. And so that's when it kind of like came together.
Yeah, awesome. And you're 6.5 years in. Is this your first boot RSA?
Yeah, the first real one. We were in the startup section last year.
Gotcha. Yeah. So it's good to be on the main floor, and hope a hell of a lot comes up of it for you. But what should people be excited about? Because you announced your Series A in mid-February. Really good raise and some solid investors on board. What should people be looking out for and waiting to see from you guys?
It's it's pretty simple. We know the vision, we know exactly where we're going, and we mean it when we say that we go and we're building a cloud provider for cybersecurity. It's truly where we're going. So what it means is you can expect out of LimaCharlie more and more of those capabilities that are at this point well understood in cybersecurity, right? The things that, in our opinion, shouldn't be vendors, they should be features. It's how we think about things. Mm-hmm. And so we're going to keep building them and adding them. But more importantly, in my opinion, we're doing it in a way that is a net benefit to the industry, right? I think there's kind of two big ways to do it. One is to build this moat and this castle where nobody gets to play in your castle. The other one is kind of the cloud approach where you're saying, look, we're building this for others to use, right? Mm-hmm. And that's really at our core. What we like to see is people coming to us and saying, like, I have this idea. I can go and, sometimes it's in an enterprise, right? We want to build this thing internally. And so we get to just give them, the easy pieces of the puzzle. Sometimes it's products, right? People that come to us and go like, hey, I think I could build, X, Y, Z. And we're able to just help them go and do these cool things. So we just want to keep doing that.
Yeah, awesome. Well, really looking forward to seeing what the future holds. And absolute pleasure to have you on, Max.
Thank you.
We hope you've enjoyed this latest episode of CyberBytes, the podcast. Please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and tell your friends. If you want to explore being a guest or how Aspiron Search can help you build high-performing security and go-to-market teams, then get in touch on LinkedIn or info@aspironsearch.com.